The government has announced today that it cleared 112,000 asylum cases last year and fulfilled the PM's pledge to process all legacy applications made before June the 28th, 2022.
But while the Conservatives are selling this as a success, there is criticism that figures aren't entirely accurate and the government's efforts haven't tackled the growing backlog of new migrant cases. Well, joining us now is the Home Secretary, James Cleverly. A very happy New Year to you, Mr. Cleverly.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year.
Well, we've got a number of things to get through with you, but the first is 17,000 asylum seekers have gone missing as part of all of these figures. Where have they gone?
Well, look, it depends. Some of them will have left. Some of them will have left the country, realising their applications are not going to move forward. And what we call voluntary returns, so people who are choosing to leave the country, last year was up by 2/3. Some of them will have tried to sneak into the economy and work illicitly, and we know this is a challenge, which is why our enforcement officers go looking. And when they find people who have withdrawn their applications, and in doing so have removed all right to be in the UK, we remove them as well. And what we call enforced returns, you know, a lot of people might think of those as deportations, those have been increased by 2/3 as well.
Yeah,
so whether
Mr.
choosing
Cleverly,
to go home or being sent home, we've increased those by 2/3.
You have, but neither of those categories account for these 17,000 claimants, do they? Because if you knew that they were either voluntary returns or enforced returns, they wouldn't be missing. These are missing asylum seekers. You have no idea where these people are, whether they're here, there or anywhere.
So the point is, at any given time, there will be some people that have gone through the process and have stepped out of the process. As I say, with regard to people who are choosing to leave, we don't always track them. We don't have exit controls in the UK, so we don't always know that they have left. But as I say, the number of people that we have returned has increased by 2/3. So ultimately, of course, we will find people that are here illegally, who shouldn't be here, who have no right to be here, and we will return.
The thing is, I mean, you're doing quite a good job of covering up the fact that actually, as Susanna says, you literally have no idea where these 17,000
or
people
who
have
they
gone.
are.
I mean, you said in your opening
answer,
you said that you think some of them will have gone back home. Well, you don't know that. None of them could have gone home.
No,
you simply don't know.
We don't. So the point is that when people try to hide themselves in the economy, and this is not unique to the UK, this happens in countries, developed economies like ours all over the world, whether it's in the US or continental Europe. But what we do is we go looking for them. So our enforcement officials...
How do you lose them in the first place? How do you lose 17,000 applicants? It's a heck of a figure.
If people stop turning up, if people disengage with the process, that's where that figure comes from. But what we do is we go looking for them. We're not passive, we're active. We go looking for them. We go to places where we know there is a risk that people are employed illegally. We do enforcement raids. We've increased the number of those raids, and therefore we've increased the number of people that we have sent home. And we will continue to do that because we're not going to rest until we get a grip of this situation.
Now, this is your first appearance on Good Morning Britain since that joke, the joke that you made in Number 10 at the party with the media, where you joked about spiking your wife's drink on the very day that you announced a big crackdown in terms of legality on that crime. You must regret that bitterly, because, I mean, it dominated the headlines for days.
I do, and look, it is very frustrating. I didn't need to say it. I shouldn't have said it, and I shouldn't have said it, and I do apologise. But the point that I have made is that the protection of women and girls has always been something that I have focused on. Back from when I was first elected to London government in 2008, and I sat on what was then the Metropolitan Police Authority. When I was Foreign Secretary, I hosted, in fact, my very first meeting as a Foreign Minister was on women, peace and security. I've championed the protection of women in conflict zones when I was Foreign Secretary.
Yes, but it's not it's not the first time in recent months, is it, Mr. Cleverly? It's not the first time in recent months that you've got in trouble for saying things which basically you shouldn't have done. Are you a bit loose-lipped?
No, look, there are things that people say in private that they would hope remain in private, and we all perhaps, say things in private we wouldn't want or we would choose not to say publicly. In this instance, of course, I apologised. But the point is that from my very first day as Home Secretary, I made it very clear to the department that I expected the department to increase its focus and prioritise the protection of women and girls. I've said that to senior police officers when I met them. I've said that to the College of Policing. And
it's probably not a good idea, is it, if you're going to have to defend that reputation as Home Secretary to make jokes about issues like this at all?
Which is why I apologised straight away.
And what did your wife say?
Well, look, my wife is always very supportive and understanding, and she continues to support me still. But the point is, I'm the Home Secretary that was bringing forward legislation to tackle spiking. And I'm frustrated that the conversation has been deflected by the words that I've said, and that's why I apologise. But I'm not going to be deterred from continuing what I've done throughout my political career, which is to focus on the protection of women and girls, both internationally and domestically.
All right, you've made that clear,
I'm going to stay absolutely focused on
All right, you've made that clear. Thanks for that. Look, earlier in today's programme, Susanna and I spoke to Alan Bates. He's the man who exposed the Post Office scandal and whose heroic fight for justice, as you know, is at the centre of a new ITV drama which began last night. It's on for the next 3 nights. And at the end of the interview, we asked him if he had a particular message for you. We told him we were going to be talking to you, and this is what he said.
Get moving with the compensation. Don't extend the deadline for payments because you can't extend people's lives. Get moving with it.
He couldn't have been clearer. The point is, this government has already pledged several times to get this compensation paid to these poor people. The last promise was it was going to be paid by December. December's come and gone, and there have been no more payments. What's going wrong?
Well, look, there has been a significant amount of money put forward for compensation. There's been an initial offer that has been made so that the people who have had their lives detrimentally affected by this, in some instances their lives blighted by this, can get some kind of compensation quickly.
When's it gonna happen?
That doesn't preclude people who are taking personal claims against the government. So the business department is absolutely committed to do right by these people. They were put through a terrible ordeal at the time. We absolutely recognise, through no fault of their own, they were put through this ordeal. We want to get money to people quickly because we do know that.
Well, you may want to, but it's not happening. Some people have died.
An initial offer.
Some people have died, Home Secretary.
60 people have died.
60 people have died without getting any compensation. You say you want to do it quickly, but the very opposite's happening.
Well, there's an initial offer so that people can get hold of compensation money quickly. For those who want to pursue a more detailed personal compensation, that option is still available to them. And the business department is absolutely committed to make right.
Those initial sums that you mentioned there, those initial sums, they're paltry. I spoke to one victim who's got £8,000. That's nothing. It's nothing when you take into account what they've been through. And as you know, some people took their own lives because of the pressure that they were under. So, I mean, £8,000 as a preliminary payment is nothing.
But it's a preliminary payment, and this is the point. We want to make sure that we deal with this. It was a terrible situation, a terrible and long-running situation. It should never have happened, and we are absolutely determined to make sure that people have got some money in here and now, but also are not prevented from making further claims. And the government has set aside a significant amount of money to make sure that the people who are safe, through absolutely no fault of their own, none at all, who found their lives blighted and their reputations tarnished, and a huge amount of personal pressure to make sure that that circumstance is made right.
Alan Bates says it is government lawyers and the government themselves who are responsible for the delay, and pleads do not extend the deadline any further because that compensation is needed. And you will be aware that with this ITV drama playing out this week, you are going to be under increased pressure to get justice for these people, and we are going to carry on pressing. We would like to speak to your colleague, the Minister for the Post Office, on the programme this week, so please can you pass that request on? We'll keep bidding behind the scenes.
I will.
And before we let you go, we were outraged, viewers were outraged this morning to find out that there is an alcohol subsidy in the Palace of Westminster at the Houses of Parliament. We ran a poll this morning. Would you get rid of the alcohol subsidy in Parliament? Funnily enough, middle of a cost of living crisis when energy bills have just gone up by 5%. Only 3% said, no, don't get rid of the subsidy. And we wonder whether that was just MPs and tabloid journalists saying that. Can you justify why there is a subsidy for alcohol in the House of Commons and the House of Lords?
Cheapest bar in London.
I don't think it's right to describe it as a subsidy. What it is that because the building is pre-existing, because a lot of the normal costs that a pub or a bar or a restaurant would have to incur aren't incurred. It's not seeking to run at a profit. That is why it is cheaper. That is not dissimilar to other organisations that have. But the point is, actually, most of the people that consume alcohol in Parliament are not parliamentarians. The vast majority of people, they work in Parliament. They are in a secure location. It's not easy necessarily for them to go to other places. And the hospitality venues within Parliament are not run as profit-making ventures.
Are you telling us that taxpayers' money is not used to subsidise the prices of the drinks? Is that what you're saying?
It's not that they're subsidised, it's that the cost base is lower because of the unique nature of Parliament. But as I say, the vast majority of people in Parliament and the vast majority of people who use the hospitality venues in Parliament are not parliamentarians. They're members of staff, they're visitors.
Why should anyone be entitled to a cheaper drink in the Houses of Parliament?
Well, as I say, it's because the cost bases are lower. It's not run as a profit-making venture, and as I say, the vast majority of people that use it are not parliamentarians.
Oh well, chin chin, and Happy New Year.
Not sure that's going to wash with our audience, but thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Home Secretary.
Home Secretary.
Thank you, guys.